Welcome to Rock City Cookies, where we talk about all things cookies. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. Thanks for watching. Hello, sweet friends. Welcome to a new tutorial. Today, I'm going to walk you through how I made this birthday set with a monkey theme for an adorable 1-year-old named Rylan. So let's get started with our first design, which is the whole inspiration for this theme, a monkey. Now this particular image that I'm using here for the monkey cookie, I purchased on designbundles.net. I like to look at design bundles a lot for my clip art. You get some pretty good designed things for pretty cheap. So this monkey was actually part of a bigger set, a bundle of zoo animals. And so I was able to use the monkey for this set and the other animals for other sets. So it's always a great option. But also you can just Google monkey face clip art. You should have some great things pop up. And this particular monkey cutter will be listed in our Etsy shop. So you can look up our Etsy shop by just going to Etsy and typing in Rock City Cookies, and our cutter shop will be listed. Or you can click on the link that I will put in the description box below. Okay, so for this monkey cookie, we want to divide the monkey into sections so that he has dimension, that he looks, it just looks better. I don't know how to explain it other than it just looks better. So we're gonna do his face and the inner part of his ears first, because those things are the same color and it'll make it easier to go back around with our second color once those have completely dried. Quick reminder, do not make your flood icing too thin. It will cause craters. It will cause your icing to run off the edge of your cookie. So make sure that you do not have super thin flood icing. Otherwise, you will regret it. Ask me how I know. I'm speaking from experience. All right, so now that we're outlining the outside of his head, so his fur, you want to make sure that your outline icing is of a thicker consistency. You don't want it to be too thin. And then also you want to flood right away. And by flooding as soon as you pipe your outline, it makes that outline disappear. So in the end, you don't even see that you've outlined, which is really the goal. So I know some people do like the look of an outline on their cookie, and that's perfectly fine. I just prefer for it to blend in to the flood icing. So if you outline and flood immediately, your outline does disappear. I think you can tell here that my flood consistency is more of a medium consistency. It's not too thick, not too thin. And by keeping it that medium consistency, it means that my icing stays where it is. It doesn't run off my cookie in these small areas around his face and his ears, but it also allows me to still have some volume. It's not too thin that I don't have a puffy cookie, but it's also not so thick that with my scribe, as I'm moving around the icing, that it doesn't smooth out completely. And don't forget, you want to pop all of your air bubbles, especially around the ear and around the face. In those small areas, you don't want any trapped air that could cause craters. Okay, now that his fur is dry and his face is dry, let's add those details that make this cute little guy look like a monkey. To give some color to our monkey, I am adding a little bit of pink to his cheeks using pink petal dust mixed with a little tiny bit of high grain alcohol. The reasoning behind mixing it with high grain alcohol was just so that I could actually paint it on. Most of the time when you use a dust, especially for just some pinkness in the cheeks, you're just going to use a dry dust and just paint that on dry. But I wanted it to keep its circle shape on his cheeks, so that's why I used high grain alcohol so that the pink would stay in a circle on his cheek to keep that cartoon look. I gave him 2 little nostrils with the same color as his skin tone. I used edible marker and drew on the top ridge of his nose and his smiley face, and now I used a thicker black icing for his eyes, and I'm taking my time smoothing them out first before I add the white pupils to them. Now we'll add the white to his eyes while the black icing is still wet. So we'll add the small little speck of white icing first. That just kind of gives him a little twinkle in his eye. And then we'll go back and add the bigger blob of white icing for his pupil. And because you're putting thick icing on thick icing, you are going to need to use your scribe and kind of blend that white icing down into the black eye, just so that it's nice and smooth and doesn't look like it's on top of the black. Okay, our cute little monkey is done. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Hey, what do you call a monkey that wears pants? A chimpanzee. Get it? A chimpanzee. You're welcome. Okay, let's start our second design, which is just a leaf because monkeys live in jungles. And before you come at me in the comments, I know not all monkeys live in jungles. I know some live in savannas or high elevation places. But in this scenario, my monkey lives in a jungle. And to make this leaf have a little bit more interest, I'm going to do 2 different techniques on either side of the leaf. So for this first section, I'm going to add some holes to our leaf. To make what looks like holes, all you have to do is just pipe circles with a thick icing onto your leaf, and then with your flood icing, come back and go around all the areas of the leaf except for inside those circles. And again, you want to make sure your icing is not too thin, because if it's too thin, that flood could fall into those holes that you want to leave open. So make sure you have a thicker icing. Again, a medium consistency is really the goal. And then you're able to just spread it out where it needs to go, smooth it out with your scribe tool, but you don't have to worry about losing the holes that you made. Okay, so now all you have to do is just let this section dry, and you're going to want it to dry for a significant amount of time, because if you're moving a cookie back and forth from the drying station, wherever you have that, to your workstation, you have a chance at cracking your icing if it's not dry enough. So you want to make sure that you give plenty of drying time between sections so that you're not accidentally cracking your icing in the move. Okay, so I have one side mostly dry, so now I'm working on the other side. So you're just going to outline and flood this section so that it's a flat flood, because we're going to add some details on top of it in just a minute. Okay, while I'm finishing up this side of the cookie, I thought I would give you a little bit of a clue about what my day looks like when I'm making cookies. So with this cookie, as you can see, I have multiple sections that need to dry. So how do I do that within a day and still make forward progress on all of my cookies? So the workflow that works for me is this. I tend to break my cookie days into 4 sections. So first, in the first section, that's when I make my cookies. That's when I color my icing. That's usually done the very first thing. I wake up early. I try to get it done before my kids even wake up. All right, and then at that point in time, I usually have to take a break. I have to be a mom and do mom things. And so that's usually when I'm focused on my children. Then in my second time block of the day, I'll go and do as much of the base floods as I can. So on these cookies that have 2 sections, I'll do 1 section. On the cookies that I can flood the whole thing, I'll flood the whole surface of the cookie. So I'm trying to get as much base flood, as much of the cookie covered as I can in that second time block. So then I usually take a break and I do mom things again. I take care of my kiddos. We do homeschool. We do lunch. We do all sorts of things that allow the cookies to have plenty of drying time in that second break of the day. And then for that third time block of cookies, I'll go back and I'll finish off any cookies that have a second or third section that needed flooded. So for instance, with this leaf, that's when I would have flooded the second section. With the monkey, it's when I would have gone back and done his fur. So whatever needs to be done in that area, I finish up those cookies. And I also start working on the top of any cookies I was able to flood completely in that first time that I was working on the flooding. So if those cookies are dry enough, I start working on that detail work and getting those cookies finished up. And then I take a long break again. So this is when I'm cooking dinner. This is when we have our family time in the evenings. I don't touch the cookies again until my kids are in bed that night. But once they're in bed, then I am hard at work finishing up all of the cookies for that day. So in this 4th time block to finish up the cookies, that means the marker work, that means writing on top of the cookies, that means if there's just little details that go on top of any of the flood, that's when you'll see me do that. Is in that 4th time block, I'm finishing all the cookies up so that when I go to sleep that night, the cookie sets are complete for that day. So I hope that helped. If you are struggling with trying to figure out how to do an entire order in one day, how to schedule your day, typically that is the best workflow for me. So just wanted to kind of give you that tip if you're struggling, and hopefully that helped. So the leaf design is done. As you can see, I just piped on some line detail work on top of the leaf just to kind of add a little bit of interest for the cookie, and the leaf is done. Okay, so the 3rd design of this set is a bunch of bananas. And since we want it to look like a bunch of bananas and not a blob of bananas, we are going to have to once again break up this cookie into sections. So we're going to start with the first banana, which will be the top banana. So outline this section that you want it to be. I just kind of eyeballed where I thought I would want the banana to be, knowing that the top of the banana will have to be a little bit of a smaller section than the bottom. With my thick icing, I put squiggly lines inside the section of the banana that I would be flooding just to keep it from cratering. I immediately then flood on top of the squiggly line, and then I take my scribe tool and smooth out my icing since it didn't automatically smooth out on its own, and I pop any air bubbles at the same time. As with the other cookies that we've done when we've had to have sections dry, this is no different. You're going to want this section to dry completely, or at least most of the way, before you move on to the next section. All right, it's time to do this second banana. So same process, outline, squiggly line, and then flood, and then let that dry for a little while as well. The good news about smaller sections like this is that it doesn't take near as long to dry. So usually each one of these sections will be dry enough within an hour or so to move on to the next. And I do want to remind you, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know, but I highly recommend drying all of your cookies in front of a fan. Drying in front of a fan not only gives your cookies a nice shine to them, but it also really helps with the time that it takes for your cookies to dry. So as always, put those cute little cookies in front of a fan. Okay, once the second banana has been flooded and is now dry, you will do your 3rd and last banana. I also forgot to mention, this banana cutter will be also listed in our Etsy shop. So if you're interested in this bunch of bananas, you can check it out in our Etsy shop by clicking on the link below. Hey, why did the monkey like the banana? Because it had a peel. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so does the squiggly line really matter? And honestly, I have found that it makes a big difference. But I think what makes a bigger difference is also the consistency of your flood. If you have too thin of a flood, it doesn't matter if you have the squiggly line, you're still going to get craters. But I do think the squiggly line helps to keep your cookie to have a puff look, but also it does help with craters. Now, are you still going to occasionally get craters even with squiggly lines? Absolutely, you will. It's not a perfect solution. However, it does help. I truly believe it does. So it's always worth a shot. If you're doing small areas of icing, definitely throw down that squiggly line first before you flood. After that 3rd and final section has dried of the banana, you want to add some brown icing to the tips of the banana and the top of the bunch. I did take the time to smooth out my brown icing, but I really don't know that this step is needed. The top of the bananas isn't exactly smooth. The bottom of the banana isn't like necessarily a smooth spot on the banana in real life. So I don't think you really have to smooth out that part, but for whatever reason I did. Okay, so now let's add the final details to the top of the banana to make them look a little bit more like bananas, to make them look aged. So I use a brown edible marker to do so. With my edible marker, which will be linked down below, I just added lines randomly throughout the bananas. I just made sure to make them curved in the same direction as the banana. And I also added some groupings of dots throughout the bananas as well. All right, friends, with that, the banana bunch cookie is done. Hey, What is a monkey's favorite snack? A chocolate chimp cookie. Also, I hope that I am still married after this video because I can feel my husband's eye rolls all the way from here. All right, moving on to this number 1 cookie. So because Rylan was turning 1, I wanted to make sure and include his birthday number in this set. Like always, we are going to outline and flood this cookie. I got lucky. This is one of the only cookies in this set that I will be flooding all at one time. So outline, flood, and pop any air bubbles, smooth out the icing if you need to, and then we will let this completely dry, and then we will add some details on top for a banana background. Today I learned that humans eat more bananas than monkeys. I can't even remember the last time I ate a monkey. Okay, that was the last one, I promise. After your icing has dried for a good amount of time where you are sure that it is mostly all the way dry, it is okay to then do marker work on top. Now, I did find this image that I'm using here as my pattern on Google. I just searched for banana clip art pattern or banana clip art background, and this is what came up. Now, you could totally freehand bananas on a cookie. I just prefer to take out any guesswork. I don't have to worry about spacing or if I sized all the bananas the same. So this way I can just project the background onto all of my cookies and they'll all look very similar. Also, another option for getting this banana background is to do wet on wet icing. What that means is that when you're doing your white icing, you could come back with yellow flood icing as well and come in and flood these small areas on top of your white icing with that yellow. It'll give you a very similar effect where you are able to then come back and add more details onto the bananas after that icing has dried. I just preferred to do it with marker for this set. I have done it both ways on other sets, but for here I just thought using a yellow marker on white icing would be just as fast. So after I did the yellow marker work, I came back right away and did the brown marker. I didn't really wait for it to dry. I just went ahead and went right on top of it with my brown marker. Again, I'm relying on the image to kind of give me a consistent pattern with these bananas, but this is a really easy shape to freehand. So if you don't even want to mess with finding a pattern, if you don't have a projector, I don't think you should feel intimidated to do this step completely by hand. So I'm just going through outlining all of the bananas first, and then I will go back and add a few of those aging spots onto the bananas to match the bunch of bananas that I did on those cookies earlier. And now, as if the 1 didn't make it obvious enough that Rylan was turning 1, I'm also going to write on the 1 cookie the word 1. The font that I'm using here is actually called Choco Cookies, and I have used it a lot in my sets, but I'll link it down below. It's a really great, fun, whimsical, cute little font that is great for birthday sets of all different themes. Now, I have a confession to make. When I filmed this set, for some reason, I did not film the cookie where I did the birthday boy's name, Rylan. I have no idea why I didn't film it, so I'm so sorry that I can't show that to you guys today. But as you can see, I did use that same font. It was a two-toned cookie. I did a green and a yellow on a plaque. So you can look at the pictures of those in the full set video at the beginning, but I am sorry that I don't have that to show you guys. Okay, the number 1 birthday cookie is done. We have a 1 final design in this set. Our final design is a saying that is, "Our little monkey is 1." And I decided to do this little saying on a hexagon cookie. To make things simple, we will be doing this on top of a white background. This hexagon cookie cutter is from Bobby's Cutters, and I will link it down below. However, I do have to say, Bobby's Cutters is one of my favorite cookie cutter companies. It's always extremely high quality, fast shipping, amazing customer service. So if you are looking for a cookie cutter company that has a lot of different plaques, shapes, sayings, really anything that you could possibly need, Bobby's Cutters is one of my favorites. Outline, flood, and pop those air bubbles. To write on the saying, "Our little monkey is one," the clip art I used was actually what was on an invitation. So it said, "Our little monkey is one," in various fonts. You could recreate this in whatever fonts that you want. I'm sure there's something similar on Google, but "Our little monkey is one" was done in a lot of different colors on the invitation. So I personally wanted to make sure to include all of the colors in this set, and I used the invitation as my inspiration for doing so. So I had white in the background of the cookie, I had green in a couple of the words, I used yellow, and I used the 2 different tones of brown in the monkey. Okay, that's the last design. We are finished. The Our Little Monkey is One cookie is done. The whole set is complete. Thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions at all, please comment down below. I'm happy to help if I can. Like and subscribe. It's the best way to support my little business. And until next time, bye-bye.